Good morning, good afternoon. How is everyone? We're going to wait a couple more minutes. We got some other participants coming in. We'll get started in just a second. And if you would like, as we are presenting this, we're going through this meeting, also feel free to ask questions. You can actually enter into the chat, and we will be able to moderate those and answer those for you. Okay. Still have some beeps coming in. Okay, it seems like we're having some camera issues also, so trying to figure out how to get my camera turned on, but if not, we're going to go ahead and get started in just 2 seconds. Okay, so hopefully you can see my presentation. We'll get started now. So how to increase ROI with talent management systems. And please use the chat to ask questions, and then we'll be reading them out. Hope you can hear me. I know you're all muted, so we're moving forward. So what is talent management, and why is it important to look at your return on investments? Talent management systems are huge investments, especially when companies are looking at the growth of their employees, where are they going, what is their human capital, and how much are they spending on human capital, and is it worth really purchasing a full talent management system? So what we're going to do today is I am going to talk through how do you measure ROI, and we're going to use quality tools, which is Plan, Do, Check, Act. So Plan, Do, Check, Act is a quality tool which talks about a life cycle of a project or an investment. So when we go through this, we want to talk about the first phase of why do we have to plan? How do we identify our goals? How are we going to reach our goals and identify gaps when we get there? What are the requirements for this? What do we have to get through the life cycle and make sure our employees, our company are getting the benefit of what we purchased? We also want to find out who the key stakeholders are. What are the goals that these stakeholders need to meet, and what are their needs? How do we communicate what the project's doing, where the company's growth is while we're making these changes, what the cost is for all of this? And, is it a cost for the company just to strictly buy something, or is also an increased cost on where we're going to go with the future, and as well as is it a part of a benefits package for the growth of employees? And how long do we hit our first set of goals? Are we going to set goals for 6 months, a year, 2 years, 3 years? And also, is there an opportunity for change? And is there opportunity for growth inside the company? So as we go through this cycle, I'm going to be talking about the services that we offer here at eConsulting to assist with getting your return on investment, which is benchmarking. There's governance, business process alignment, optimization, user acceptance training, end user training, and roadmap. So I've been working in talent management for close to 18 years here. I am the president of the U.S. division of eConsulting, and want to bring this to a full life cycle of where we can work together and talk about how we benefit each other and grow the production line and product of talent management. I'm based in Atlanta, Georgia. You probably will understand my accent's a little bit different, but I will be driving through this presentation and answering questions for you. So when you look at Plan, Do, Check, Act, Plan, Do, Check, Act is a quality tool that's used in all industries. And during this, we want to be careful to consider the requirement, the expected outcomes. What do we measure? How do we validate our return on investment? So when you look at measurements and goals, a lot of people, when you go in and look at where you're going to grow and what you're purchasing, you look at these investments as, oh yeah, we want to make sure people log into the system. We want to make sure that we're able to have a succession plan that has 10 people we can look at. You want to make sure you have true numerical analytical goals that you can say, yes, we had 45 people log in. We had this much earning growth. We had the growth of 5 divisions we brought into our system. So the metric should be definitely a measurable piece. And we'll be talking about that as we go further into this presentation. So planning is the key part. And as you go into planning, there's 2 services that you need to think about and 2 things you need to really do before you ever start a project. You need to make sure you have benchmarking and you have governance. Benchmarking is very important to know, can we measure what we need analytically, like I mentioned earlier? Is there a true set of metrics that we're going to say we're going to take this logins, or we're going to make sure that we've got 5,000 records into our system by the first 45 days? We need to define those and publish those. Who are your stakeholders? Subject matter experts are normally a stakeholder, but subject matter experts at all times do not have the capability to make the decisions. You may have to have an executive sponsor or somebody else in the room who can make the decisions. When you go into initial phases of planning projects, initial phases of rolling out your talent management systems, everybody has what they want to have. It's like a Christmas list. Everybody wants all of this stuff, but is it really what you've got to have? Are the stakeholders who are wanting this the true stakeholders? Are they the decision makers? Are they the global level that's telling you what has got to be done with the executive leadership's vision of where we're going to go? So what is your human capital investment? How much time are these people going to be involved in this project? So with benchmarking, we will go in and we'll identify and say, hey, I'm going to need 3 hours a week of your IT director. I'm going to need 4 hours a week of your HR director or an HR analyst. So we identify the time requirements, and we can also we can help the system breaking down there. What is the cost? So if they want to know how much is this cost for them over the life cycle, how much money are they spending in salaries, we can assist in breaking that down so they can see the full investment, not only just buying the software. Are we going to have to shift people's responsibilities to work on this project? So benchmarking will assist in doing that. we will actually go in and say, okay, I am going to need your training director for about 10 hours a week. Do they have the capabilities to meet this 10-hour requirement? If not, are there responsibilities that we need to realign to make sure they can be at the meetings and make the decisions to keep this project online, or making what is a roadmap of where we're going to go in the project planning phase. So, hey, I can't have 10 hours a week this week with the training director. Really, what I can only have is about 3 hours a week. So as we go through planning the whole project in the very beginning, they may say they want the project to take place in 12 weeks, but it actually is going to take us more like 24 weeks due to the fact of time requirements. Will we need to bring in additional staff? I mean, due to responsibilities and changes in the company, people being working virtually right now, or we're going to do some managed services to bring other staff in. So we want to do this very early on in the planning phase before we ever start the projects. Let's get it on paper, let's publish it, and let's get executive and all key stakeholders to agree upon it. And then at that point, we begin the project. So at this time, we're also going to, like I said, grab the staff. Are we going to add this to be a job performance expectation? Or are we going to rate them on their duties and assignments? Does it become a part of their performance review at the end of the year on a quarterly basis that they are engaged in managing through this? Do they have the authority to realign and join meetings? What is the internal communication? Benchmarking is going to identify what is the internal communication plan. Who is going to communicate to the executive level? Who's going to communicate to the senior leadership team? Who's going to communicate down to the managers or the end stakeholders, however you want to identify who wants to do it? We've got to have that mapped out and benchmarking before we ever start the project. Will there be a need for change management or impact analysis? If you're rolling out a big system to like a major airline or to a power company, I was on the phone yesterday, there's a power company rolling out a new system. It's a huge change impact, which also identifies how do we make this change in the culture of our company to get them where they need to be. And when do we need to bring these people in to start the change management process? Change management starts at the very beginning of a project as you document where we go with it. And again, going back to what I said, how do we measure success on this investment? You want to identify at least 5 goals that you can put a metric value and be able to say, I'm meeting or not meeting, and define what those values are on a scale. And what is the timeline to measure? When are we going to measure and when are we going to hit them? So once we've completed benchmarking, we'll also start talking about governance. How do we build out how we're going to manage this project in communication and decision making? You don't want a room full of 50 people in a conference room making decisions about building our talent management system. We're still in the planning phase. Who are those stakeholders that I talked about in benchmarking? How are we going to communicate? How are we going to publish our decisions out? There's multiple ways. We've all worked in an environment where we've been in a think tank, and it's a group of people that's talking about how they're going forward and making the decisions, and they document one person to take that charge. Or you have a hierarchical, which is where you have somebody dictating down what the decision points are going to be, and then they move forward and they take the charge and implement based on what the directive is coming from them. Both are appropriate as you go through a talent management system or through an implementation. They both have different times and needs. So both of these will work, but you have to define what is going to be your leading governance structure and communication plan. As we go through the planning phase with governance, we've identified our key stakeholders. We've identified our governance team. But then who is responsible for doing stuff? Who's accountable to making sure it got done? Who are we going to ask about it and consult to make sure we're making the right decisions? And then who's going to be informed? That's called a RACI chart. As we go through governance, we will identify every task and deliverable that has to be made about the project. And then as we do that, those roles will also be identified in the RACI chart as you see below, about where in the phase cycle do they step in, and are they the responsible party? Are they a consulted party? Or are they an informed party? Which links back to where we talked about benchmarking earlier. There's also a graph that shows the time requirements that fits with the governance RACI chart. So you can actually see how much time is going to be required and what role they're going to take throughout the life cycle to make sure we're on target to meet where we've got to go. This is a sample of what a governance plan looks like. So you see who's in charge of configuring online content, where's the decision maker, it's the head of the department, it may be the vice president, who defines what goes into the system, who owns doing it. So who's going to actually load a piece of content into Cornerstone Talent Management? As this example shows, to be the system admin, the global system or a departmental admin, and what type of content is it? Part of governance as you go through this and you're identifying the project and identifying the communication plan and the stakeholders and ownership is, how do we communicate back and forth? What is the policy? And because as you build this out for a long-term life cycle, you've got to have policies and standards to follow to make sure that the system keeps up to where it is, what it needs, and that the information is to the level of quality the company expects and meeting the standards they expect for the return on their investment. So here's an example of how you would write a policy that would be published. If you have a manual of operations or standards of procedures, you would actually write these policies for processes, publish them through governance to all the key stakeholders, and it must be followed, and who makes what decisions and manages through it. An example here is like a subject in the system. I may be in Atlanta, want to add a subject to an LMS system. It would impact everybody across the globe. So I need to make sure that I get approval from other leaderships or other system admins to add that subject in or to delete a subject. Now we're going to get into the do phase. Plan do. This is where we roll up our sleeves and we really start getting busy with the work and defining where we're going to go. So we've got the teams built out. We've identified who the stakeholders are. Now it's time to let's get started and follow our project plan and roll out what our decision points are and where we're going to go. There's 4 things that we can help you with at eConsulting, which is business process alignment, of course, system administration training, managed services, and end user training. So here we go, and we're now here. We're looking at where we are currently. We bought this system. We're trying to build this system out. What's it going to do for us, and what are the plans for our leadership team? Why do they bring this project into us, and we're going to grow it, and what do they want us to do? So we've got our old ways, and we've got this new technology. So to understand that, we have to do what we call a business process alignment. We work with you very closely. We sit down, we meet, we talk to the subject matter experts. How do you do it today? Take me from step by step. It's kind of like writing a short story, a simple story, like I log in here, I go pull this data, I type it here, step by step. So we go through those processes and we think, okay, so our system can match this for the future state, but there's also a chance for best practices. Okay, it's great what you're doing. However, the system's going to give you some better ways to do it, or what industry standards are that we work with other clients with. There's better ways we can use the technology to help you. And can we change this process that you currently have to your future state? But understand, technology also has its limits. So not all of the decisions that you want or all your current state may fit in technology. So what we will do is identify the gaps. You know, your process won't work in Cornerstone, but you've got a gap, but we can help you work around it or design it so it does work. So through the business process alignment, we come out with a product called a fit gap analysis. and a process alignment to show you how you do business and where we can support you and where we can grow you. So a fit gap analysis will go through and we'll show you, hey, here is an analytical view of where we can meet everything you need to be done. Can your HR data work? Yes. Can your content work in our system? Yes. But if you look at this example I gave you, this had 43 decision points, or 43 process decision points they wanted done for catalog management. Cornerstone, we could do 40 of them, but there's a gap of 3 that they wanted. So this shows them to say, hey, we've got 40 of them working, 3 we've got to go in and work together and define how we're going to work around these. The fit gap analysis also comes with recommendations for the workaround that we see the implementation consultants see on best practices to get where you've got to go. And it is a joint venture that we talk to the company, the employees, the subject matter experts, and we work with our team also here at e-consulting to make sure that we're pulling our think tank together to help meet that gap. So then we go into system admin training. So before you really start looking at how the system's going to work and making decisions, we need to start doing some training so you have the basic understanding of how it works. So system admin training, when you buy Cornerstone, you get access to online training. You take their online training and it gives you the basic functionality of how to work through the different key decision points of managing the Cornerstone talent management system. There's over 1,000 decision points on what has to be managed to make the configuration. What we do is we have system admin training that we work with clients during the do phase to ramp them up. We enhance the self-directed training. We go in and we sit in a room or do a virtual training in the client's portal and help them configure it based on their decisions and their processes and their process flows that we had defined in the business process alignment. This is actually a hands-on training and coaching. We're not sitting there being a computer saying, take this online and do this, do this. You can add the opportunity to ask us questions. Tell me about a configuration. How would you build this configuration out? How would you launch this piece of content? How would you launch this performance review? And our experts drive you through on how to do that. And this is either on-site, virtual. That's something we will work with you on what best meets your needs for your administrators. Earlier on, I made the comment, do we need to hire staff? Do we have the manpower at our company to go through this implementation, make all the decisions, build our portals out and get it ready, or manage the portal after we get live? So managed services. Here at eConsultant, we have a team of certified consultants with over 180 certifications inside of Cornerstone. What we do, we know how to operate it. We know how to drive it. It may be best if we got time constraints or we don't have the team that has the skill set or the ability to manage the day-to-day operations to do a managed services agreement to help have eConsultant help build your product out during implementation. So an eConsultant implementation consultant will represent you as a client, as well as you'd have somebody helping you do the configuration decisions. Staff augmentation is huge. Reduces the management time. We can do it faster because we know what it is that we're building and know the decisions. And you get years of experience. So you get that industry knowledge as they're going in and building out your decision points based on what your process alignments gave you. What are some cost benefits for managed services? It is a cost savings. You don't have to pay benefits packages. We can normally do it faster because of the knowledge base we have. Like I said, expert personnel and knowledge, coverage of the system without employee allocation, where I talked about employees may have a full plate. especially working virtual now or other assignments that are done. Our staff take it and we focus 100% on building out your talent management system. You also get a service level agreement and delivery time. So we will tell you, you will have this back on this date, and we agree upon it in contract that you will have all of your configurations built by this time, and you have access to our staff to ask why or help you make changes. So when I early on in the plan phase, and I talked about change. So of course, with a new system, there is change, and it's also training employees. So not only your system administrator, but every employee in the Cornerstone system or other systems have to learn how to use this system. As I was building out this presentation, I had to learn some new technology. So end users have to be taught on how to do this. How do you access the system? Is it easy to use? Knowledge on how to use the system. Understand the purpose of the system and benefits to who those are involved. This is not something like getting Word and taking a course in Word, because we configured this based on our needs and processes of our company. So one thing that must be done is train our end users. Here at eConsulting, we do end user training. We will train every employee in your company on how to use Cornerstone on Demand. And with the different security roles, we're training everybody on how to manage through their system. Because we have to consider also, what are learning styles? I mean, every generation has different learning styles. Yes, some are audio, some are visual, some are tactile. What is a learning style that we need to make sure we meet with the employees? And that's one thing when we do training, we consider that and develop the training for your end users based on the different learning styles that are out there. Also, we need to retain this training. As we bring in new employees, we onboard new employees. End user training has to be updated, managed, and versioned. Also, with end user training, we're going to give you metrics. Were we successful in getting your staff trained? Were we able to show a return on your investment by production increase, quality controls, customer service ratings, sales revenues going up based on what you have learned inside of Cornerstone and using our system? So those are some key decision points when you think about your end user training. When you do training for your employees at your company, are you really targeting this training based on the metrics you want to hit? Sales increase, like I said, customer sat scores, those things that we want to measure. When eConsultant does training, we define that and we measure against it to make sure we're successful for your company. As I said, as we went through the BPA, we did the fit gap analysis. We just talked about system administration training, going back to the business process alignment. The system administrators need to understand the process flows. We need to make sure that when we know who does what are the decision points, and who owns doing it, which goes back to that RACI chart I talked about in governance. Who is responsible for doing each step of a process? A process can be as simple as sending an email to validate that you've completed your performance review, or it could be as simple as posting a job through our recruiting software. But each minute detail becomes a process. And we build those out in chart format. We give you a visual diagram where the decision points are, who owns it, and the life cycle of that one process. This becomes our blueprint for configuration of your system. Yes, this can change. We may get into implementation. The system administrators get into implementation, and we're thinking about the end user, how they're going to be able to access and get to it to make it easy to use. These documents change, but this is our roadmap for implementation. Recommendation: as we exit the implementation, become a lifelong partner. After you've gone live, we want to make sure that y'all keep the clients keep these business processes up to date and published. It becomes part of going back to governance, the manual policy, the standards. These become part of that on how to manage the different processes and linking these processes to operating procedures. Okay, what happens in the check phase? So we've gone from plan, we've gone to do, where we built out the implementation, we've developed our system administrators, we've configured the system, we're live, we've trained the end users, they're all in here operating in the system. Hey, it's good. Check the box, it runs on its own. No, it doesn't. Cornerstone and all other systems require daily maintenance, require configuration, require making sure that your processes, your system is optimized to what business standards are. You know, are you keeping up with what the industry's doing? Are you keeping up with regulations? Are you keeping up with the changing in the world? Like as we go through this pandemic, we really are not training staff the same way we used to because people are virtual. They can't go into office. We've got to keep them focused on like this webinar. We have to keep people focused on it. It's kind of hard to do that if you don't go and grow with the changes in environment and cultures and what the system's doing in the releases of Cornerstone. So in the check phase, we're live, we've launched, we've already measured our return on investment for our implementation. Did we hit our project plan on time? Did we stay in our cost analysis? Did we make sure we have everything where we need these staff were able to meet their needs and performance review? So we're live. We need to think about what next. You know, built it, we're rolling, everything's good. Releases. Are you doing the releases? Are you keeping up with what's going on in your organization? Are you buying companies? Are you rolling off companies? Are you doing an HR restructure? Different things that take place. Do we need additional functionality? Do we have some compliance requirements where, you know, I need to make sure that these compliance trainings are completed before I allow somebody to use a new piece of equipment? Is that up to date? Or the governments are adding in new requirements for federal funding? Are you keeping your system up to date to track that and provide the reporting back when they want it? If not, the system is already out of date within a quarter of going live. So what you want to do is you want to document and make sure you go through this. Optimization. We're going to come in as a consultant, understand what the functionalities are, understand where your current state was when we went live, because we have the documentation. And we're going to go in and go, okay, it's been 24 months, 2 years. Have you kept up with your releases? Have you kept up with all the standards? Do you have your reporting up to date? Do you have your process flows up to date? Because it looks like some things have changed. You've had some changes in companies or technologies. So we recommend that you have e-consulting come in at 24 to 30 months after your initial launch. Could be earlier. You may want to do 18 months. Come in and say, are we up to date? Are we really optimizing our systems to the best capabilities? Or do we need to refine our processes because we're not getting performance reviews back, or we're not getting the applicants coming in through our recruiting software like we thought we would get? So let's look at your issues. Let's look at where your configurations are and move forward, because there may be enhancements that have been released by Cornerstone that you never inherited or put into your system. And we can say, you need to go back in. Let's go ahead and add this functionality that you missed on the second release after you went live. There's actually something that meets this gap you're talking about, and we help you configure and show you where it is and build it out. And so you can, we go back into growing our investment. We're now moving forward. We're back on track. Optimization workshop also comes out with a full report. Where do we see that you've got areas for growth? Where do we see that you definitely need to make some changes to your processes, or your processes have not kept up with where the industry standards are? It's not the technology that's not working for you. It's some of the industry standards of what's going on around the world. We need to really think about where you need to change your company to make you keep up with what's going on in other areas. We also build out these some of our decision points in one of your environments and let you see it. Say, do you like this? Is this something you want to do? If not, okay, we don't have to do it because we didn't touch your production environment. But optimization gives you a full, 360 view of where your company is. We do a full assessment of your feeds, your outbound feeds, your reporting, all that information. Going back, I talked about managed services during the do phase. Managed services also can be during the check phase. It's where we manage you through the life cycle of post go live, through your contract, as you continue to grow the system, as you continue to bring more staff in. And this is your system of record for talent. This is where we're growing our employees. We're doing our performance reviews. We're recruiting new hires for onboarding. We're doing compensation planning on, what type of bonuses are we going to give out based on performance reviews? And what's the performance review based on LMS? Managed services there. We can assist you through staff augmentation and manage these systems for you, give you the reporting you need, run the day-to-day operations of your talent management system. Again, going back to what I said earlier, since this fits two places in the life cycle, it's cost savings, experts, personnel, and knowledge. You get allocation to a dedicated employee to work with you, and you get the service level and delivery times. All of our consultants are up to date on every release. They know all the functionality changes. So as we go through the check phase and help you with that, we're building out your product based on the new releases, or giving your decision makers the content to make a decision. Do you want this release added into your system, or do we want to not bring that in, this functionality in at this time because it's going to be a change to our process? That is where we fit in with your life cycle with managed services. So we're going to plan, do, check. Now we got to act. So acting is the last phase before we go back into the full cycle again. It's roadmap. Are we going to grow? Or what are we going to do? What's our future look like? If I were going to leave Atlanta and go to Denver, how am I going to get there? What am I going to do? So if I'm a small company now and I'm planning on, in the pipeline of buying 5 more companies in the next 4 years, okay, not only am I buying those companies, but I got to roadmap how I'm getting these people into my company. How am I getting these people into my talent management system, my HR system? We've got to act. We've got to look at the vision of what the growth plans are and do requirements gathering. So we sit down, we talk, we listen. If, let's say, I'm a major beverage company that sells brands all over the world, different brands in the United States that are different from those that are in Japan and Europe. What are my steps to get that training out? Where am I going to do a shotgun approach and launch this system out there? But I've got a new initiative coming where I'm going to start doing some really cool interactive learning. I'm going to roll my interactive learning out. But am I going to do it for everybody at one time? Am I going to choose regions? When am I going to roll those regions out? What are my human capital to roll these regions out? How much money do I need to invest in? Do I have to do language packs? Do I have to hire people to translate the content from English to, Polish, or translate it into Polish, Portuguese, Spanish, and Greek? I have to roadmap that and look at the cost and how long it's going to take me to get there. Do I have the money at the time to do that? So part of a roadmap is we're going to identify this is what the cost analysis is going to be. Can we really look at this as we look in the future? We're going to buy this company in 2 years, from 2 years from now. Okay, how much is it going to cost to bring this company into our talent management and roll out this new initiative? So it's going to show you how much it will cost you to do all that based on the time the document was written. We also identify what is your risk? Where's your talent management system at risk, or where is your growth plan, your investment at risk? And how do we help mitigate those risks? Are we going back, with the language packs on training? Okay, we're at risk because I know that when I talk to your senior leadership team, that y'all may be getting rid of some of your diversity team, or you may be changing some of your HR structure, or changing some of your translation structure. If we get rid of your translators, we're going to have to outsource all of our content to be translated by our third-party vendor, which increases our cost and also increases our timeline on launching stuff out. So a roadmap puts all that in a documented process. It also gives you a timeline, a RACI, and all the decision points. It becomes a living document of what phase 1 is, phase 2, phase 3, go forth. Roadmap can be anywhere from 6 months after you've gone off live with the product, up to 5 years. After 5 years, you need to have it reviewed again. Requirements gathering, just like a roadmap, always gathering that at the phase of where we're going in the future. However, if I'm looking at purchasing the Cornerstone product or a talent management system, what do I need to have? What is my initial implementation going to look like? What is my target audience? What is my technology requirements? How much money am I going to have? How much content am I going to bring in? How am I going to design? Am I going to expand out with a full suite? Or am I going to start with the smallest component and then build it out? And what is sustainment? So when companies go out and start thinking about their future, where they're going to grow, requirements gathering is huge. It's similar to benchmarking that I talked about in the plan phase, but it's different also because this is sitting down and getting everything that we want a system to do. Whereas benchmarking is defining what we want the system to do and the key stakeholders and components to get to where we want to go. So if you look here, want, like, need. I was actually making the comment, I want to get this printed and give it to my kids. They say, I need this. I was like, no, you want that. But that's when you go through the requirements gathering, setting goals. Is it a must have? Is it a like to have? Or is it a need to have? So as you go through that and you look at requirements gathering and document your goals, what is your current state? Is your current state working for you? If not, let's make changes and set a goal to make sure we met it with our new technology, our new configuration, and that we're hitting the investment that we purchased. What are the industry standards? Am I behind on industry standards? Am I still in my car? Am I producing vehicles that have the old turn window? Or am I producing windows? Cars, I just wave my hand in front of the door and the window goes down for me. What am I with industry standards? Is there an opportunity for me to grow my business with this technology, to take me to the next level, to make me a disruptor in the industry? We don't want to just be like our other people. We want to be different. We want to go in and disrupt and become a leader. It's kind of like the electric cars. There's a huge electric car company that came out here and had just totally disrupted the industry on how we do vehicles. As we go through what will make us our current state better, which I talked about with the going through enhancements and mapping where we are and what can we do to be more effective and cost efficient. And again, what is our must-haves and like-to-haves? There's a whole different thing there. Must-have is requirement we have to hit, like I must have GXP. I must have tracking of all the life sciences requirements in the validated environments. I'd like to have the ability to control somebody using a piece of machinery, and they take the training when they're at the machinery. I need to have the system be able to work off a mobile phone or a tablet. So those are some things that we help you build out in your requirements gathering, as well as roadmaps. So again, return on investment is a full life cycle. You plan, which also goes back to where it just was. You act before you plan also. You've got to get your requirements in the act phase so you can start planning where you want to go and requesting the services and writing where your plans and your teams and your expectations and your goals. After we plan, we go and we do. Again, we build it out, we do our process alignments, we do our training, we get the staff, we launch it, we check. We go in there in the check phase, we do optimization, we do managed services, we review our investment goals, we rebuild investment goals even. So we met these. Once you meet a goal on your return on investment, do you stop? No, you write the next set of goals. It's like performance reviews. If I met all of my goals for the year, I may want to go add as a manager other goals for my employee to go meet. Because as long as you set new investment goals, the company continues to grow. And then you act, which I talked about, roadmap and building out where we want to go in the future with building out our plans and gathering our requirements. So we have other initiatives we're doing here at eConsulting. In 2017, Adobe, keeping up with what standards are in the industry, keeping up with what technology is doing. Adobe Flash is being sunset on December 31st, 2020. We're working diligently with clients and customers. If you have a updated browser, if you use an updated technology as your web browser and you have Flash in your content, you have to either reverse back to an old browser or your content's not going to play because Flash won't be supported. So you may have issues with your compliance training. You may have issues with onboarding after December 31st, 2020. Reach out to us if you want us to help you look at it. If you meet the compliance, help you rebrand it, help you repackage it. That's what we're here for. We have two other initiatives we're going on right now. We have Access on Demand, which is controlling access to buildings, rooms, doors. We also have the ability to take a QR code and link it to a piece of machinery, and you can then find out all the required training for that machinery. And if you met it, or require training to enter a room, or require training to operate a beverage machine, it's all based on a QR that's managed from a mobile device that gives you real-time access to your transcript and real-time access to the training. We also have ILT Hub, which is instructor-led training hub to assist the instructors with communication and managing the transcripts of the end user. I'm going to stop here. And Lydia, do we have any questions? Let me see if I can see in the chat.
So far, no questions, Gene.
Okay, can we unmute everybody and see if we have any questions?
Yes, of course.
Okay. Any questions? I think we're getting y'all.
Hey, Gene.
Yes, Tony.
How long does the process typically take once you start it? I mean, what's the timeline that we should be thinking about when looking at this?
So the benchmarking, the plan phase is about a month to get it done. Then you get into the do phase, and that's about a 4 to 5 month process. That's when we're actually doing the heads down configuration. And then the check is about a 6 to 8 week phase, and the act is a life cycle. I mean, that's just continuously going on back full cycle. So you're looking at a full life cycle of your contract. Actually, if you have a 3-year, 5-year contract with Cornerstone, we're going to be engaged with you the full life cycle of your contract.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Any other questions? Okay. Well, I appreciate everybody joining.
Hey, Gene.
Yes.
I think I just saw Stu add a message to the chat here.
Okay. Which of the plan, do, check, act process is likely where clients miss? That clients really miss in the plan phase. They just want to get it stood up as quickly as possible. They don't define the metrics. They don't know what they really want. Just we got this software, let's go do it. And as you get into the do phase, there's a lot of because there's reconfiguration, there's lost time because there's no benchmark they're working against to make sure they're hitting the target of the process correctly. Those are the two big phases I miss. And then I would say the third one is they don't ever go back and look at the system after they go live with it. They go live, everybody's up and going, and it's good. And they don't come back and do the full review of where they are to grow the future. Thank you, Stuart. And thank you, Drew, for calling that out for me.
No problem. Just to inject another question here, maybe start a discussion. What do you think is an ideal way to help those clients that maybe they didn't give themselves quite enough time? They're facing the sunset of or the contract expiration of their old talent system, and now instead of being able to approach the project with this methodology, now they're facing kind of that hard go live deadline. Is it possible to adapt this methodology in order to maybe help get them to at least a initial phase of live, so that way they can move off their old platform and then maybe revisit some of this more strategically once they've got the fundamentals off the ground with their system?
It is definitely, this could be used in those hardship cases, or when people are kind of, like you said, got their back against the door, they got to get off the system real fast. What we do is we identify, goes back to the must have. Okay, this is where we've got to get here, and we do the roadmap. We can definitely use this technology and this methodology to get people to some quick win goals and get them stood up. But at the same time, we want to make sure we assist them. And okay, this is just the initial phase and our plan. This is where we've got to target your timelines and your human capital investment to get where we've got to be. And then after we get you live, the next phase is we're going to come back and start making some tweaks and growing out. So it goes back to writing the project plan and writing the benchmark needs and really return on investment goals for short term. I've got to get this up. I've got to get the system on the new system. How much is it going to cost me? And how fast do I have to have it in place? And who are my key stakeholders to get them there? So yes, we can definitely take smaller tasks and break it down into the same technology and the same methodology.
That makes sense.
Any other questions? Well, as you see, always reach out to us. Check our website out, econsulting.co. Feel free to reach out to us. Email me. If you have questions, want to talk more about our strategic services, how eConsulting can assist you, If you want to learn about access on demand, which is some really cool technology we're doing, IoT Hub, which is also really assists with the learning product. Access and IoT are strictly LMS products. But we'll be glad to talk about it, give you demos. And then if you have your content for Flash that needs to be reviewed and you have questions, feel free to reach out to us and we'll answer those for you. I appreciate everyone's time. I'm going to give you 5 minutes back and look forward to hearing from you. Enjoy the rest of your evening or day, and thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Gene.
Yeah, thanks, Gene. That's informative.
Thank you.